Hello, Henry Greenwood here, and from Green Schools Project, and welcome to week 4 of the Zero Carbon Schools remote learning for Greenleaf Primary School. So hopefully you'll have seen on your activity sheet that the first task is to have a go at 5 quick questions. So if you could follow that link on your activity sheet and have a go at those 5 questions. If you haven't done that, just press pause on the video now and have a go at those questions. And this week, what we're going to do is we're going to actually start working out the carbon emissions from travel for children and staff to and from Greenleaf Primary School. So I'm going to share my screen with you for you to have a look at so you can see this as we go. And there we go. And last week, you might remember that I left you with this question. The question was, how can we find out our carbon emissions from travel to and from school? So before we even think about working out the carbon emissions, first of all, obviously, we need to know how everybody gets to and from school. So that's what we're going to be looking at this week. And then next week, we're actually going to do the calculations for the carbon emissions. So the topic really today that we're going to look at is, how do children and staff travel to and from Greenleaf? Now, first thing to think about is, how can we find out that information? And those of you who are in the sessions at school before Christmas, we did discuss this a little bit. And hopefully you remembered that there was, last term, you did a survey about this exact question. And someone came into the classroom and asked you about how you got to and from school, and you put your hands up in response to the question. So I've actually got the information from that. So we don't need to do it again and collect any new data. I'm going to show you how I got the information, and we're going to figure out how everybody got to school using that. So this is how it got recorded. And this is an example of Hawthorne class. And they asked all of the children in the class, which is some of you guys, how do you normally travel to school, and how would you prefer to travel to school? So we're only really interested in how do you normally travel to school, because that is actually how people do it at the moment. And we got those answers. So 17 people said they walk to school, which is great. No carbon emissions there. 1 person cycles. 7 people got a car or a motorcycle. I'm assuming most people get the car rather than on a motorbike. And 1 person used park and stride, which is when you drive part of the way and then you walk the rest of the way. And we got results from the staff as well. So however many teachers and teaching assistants were in the classroom, and the same questions were asked, and we got results from that. So what I did was get all of that information and put it all together into a big table on Excel. I don't know whether you might have used Excel before, but you don't need to worry about that too much. But this is the table that we got. And we're going to start with staff, because that's an easier one to look at because there's not so many. And I'm going to set you a couple of tasks to do for both of these, for staff and for children. So the first thing I would like you to do is to copy out that table. So don't worry about it looking perfect and kind of having a ruler for every line or anything like that, but just kind of do a rough copy of that table on a piece of paper. It will take you a few minutes. So best thing to do is to press pause on the video now and then press play again when you've copied out the table. So hopefully you've done that. And the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do, now that you've copied out the table, is to work out how many staff were there in each class. Nice and easy, you can just count them up. So in U class, for example, how many staff were there? And I want you to write it on the right-hand side of the table under a heading which says total. So you're going to write total to the right of car share and just count up how many staff there were for each class. So nice and simple. For example, U, there was 1 person walked, 1 person cycled, 2 people got the car. So that 1, 2, 3, 4. So the total is 4. put that in the right-hand column, and then do the rest of them. That's your first task. Your second task is to work out how many used each method of transport. So how many people walked, how many people cycled, how many got the tube, how many got the car, and how many did a car share. And I want you to write that at the bottom of the table. And the final thing to do is to work out how many staff there were in total that were in each of the classes. And I want you to think about, where does that go in the table? And when you're done that, write it in. Okay, so if you probably need a bit more time on that, so press pause on the video and press play again when you've done it, and we'll just go through the answers. So going through that now, you should have on the right-hand side a total with all of those numbers in it. So there was between 2 staff in some of the classes up to 4 staff in some of the other classes. At the bottom, you should have the total for each method of transport. And then finally, where do we put the total of all of them is in the bottom right-hand corner. Okay, so there were 32 staff in this survey that were in each of the classes. Okay, so that's really useful information about how all of those 32 staff got to and from school that we're going to use to calculate the carbon emissions. The next thing I want you to do, that was the nice easy one because there weren't so many. The next one is children. Now, children is a bit more complicated because obviously there's more of you than there are of staff, and there are actually more. There were in the survey, there were more different methods of transport as well. So this is a bit of a bigger table, but again, I would like you to have a go at copying that out on a piece of paper. Try and make it neat, but don't worry about it being absolutely perfect like that. But copy out that table. It'll take you a few minutes. Press pause on the video, and when you've copied the table, then press play, and I'm going to tell you what you need to do next. So now you've got your table. We're going to do the same thing as you did for the staff. Okay, so first of all, you're going to work out how many children there were in each class. You'd probably be able to do that in your head by just counting up the numbers. It's really nice to see actually in this table that most children in each of the classes walk to school, which is great. It's good for your exercise, and also the bonus for what we're doing is that there's no carbon emissions in walking. So once you've done that, again, put that in on the right-hand side of your table under a heading total. And that shouldn't take too long. Then the next thing to do is you're going to work out how many people got each method of transport. Now, some of those are quite easy. There's not much to add up, but walking, you might need the use of a calculator to check your answer, okay? Or you can write it out and have a go at it by hand. Either way is totally fine. And then finally, the last thing, again, I want you to work out how many children were in total in the survey. Okay, again, use a calculator, write it out by hand, entirely up to you. Have a go at those tasks. You can rewind if you've forgotten what the tasks were, press pause. Once you've done them, I'm going to go through the answers. Okay, so if you press play again and you've worked all of that out, here we go. So in all of the classes, you should probably know that there's kind of nearly 30 children in each class. This was actually just the number of children that were present for the survey. Some of them, for some classes, a few children may have been absent. We're going to use that. We're going to worry about that later. So those are the total of children in each class, and the total for each method of transport. There are the numbers at the bottom. Hopefully you got all of those right. And in the bottom right-hand corner, how many children were there in the school in all of these surveys is, I hope you got that right, that was 344. Okay, don't worry if you're a little bit out, but that's how many children took part in this survey. So that is all we're going to have time for today. Next week, as I said, we're going to actually use that information to work out the carbon emissions. Okay, it's nice and easy for walking because obviously there's no carbon emissions, but when it comes to bus and tube and car, there's some actually quite complicated calculations that we're going to do. And actually, I forgot, as a little extension to that, if you found it too easy just adding up all of the numbers, can you work out the percentage of each one? So can you work out the percentage of children that walked in comparison to the total number of children? Okay, if you're not sure about that, how to do that, don't worry. But if you think you know how to work out those percentages, you're going to need a calculator for that. Give it a go. So that's all we've got to, as I said, that's all we've got time for today. Let's stop sharing the screen. And just the final thing to say is, if you have a look at your task sheet, there's one final task at the bottom of your task sheet, which is to watch the BBC programme A Perfect Planet. Now, I think all the episodes are great. I think it's amazing to see all the different animals in different situations, but it's particularly important. The last episode was on recently about the impacts that humans are having on our planet and making it slightly less perfect than it has been for life. I haven't actually watched that last one yet, but I really want to, and I think it's really it would be great if you guys can watch it. And it's really the reason why we're doing this project at the moment, to try and kind of protect life on the planet, and that the BBC programme kind of goes into a bit more detail about what's happening and what the effects are. So have a watch of that. That's all we've got time for this week. I hope you have a good week, and I will see you again next week.